Hey everybody, my name is Brendan Noble. I'm a young adult author. Welcome back to my Slavic Saturday series where we talk about Slavic history, mythology, and folklore related to my Slavic fantasy series and the first book in the series, A Dagger in the Winds. This week I'm really excited because we're talking about another god, and this week we're talking about a god who's pretty dang popular, and his name is Dažbog. But before I dive too much into Dadźbog, I just wanted to remind you I'm still looking for advanced readers for my book series and A Dagger in the Winds. You can look at the links down in the comments below if you're interested. An advanced reader is just someone who gets an early free copy of the book and is interested in leaving reviews on various sites to help promote the book. So Dažbog is a pretty popular god because he's also a rarity. He's both a cultural hero and a god, and he was worshipped across most tribes in early Slavic times, which is kind of rare in Slavic mythology because we have so many different regions between the West Slavs, East Slavs, South Slavs, and then even more divides within those groups. But Dažbog was pretty well known across a lot of these groups, particularly the South Slavs. And he was so well known that he was one of the 7 gods that received the statue by Prince Vladimir in 980 in front of his palace in the Kievan Rus. And so still, there's this eastern presence, there's a southern presence. His name can be loosely translated to the giving god, but because of this variation across regions, he can be associated with different things. He's particularly known as a solar deity, but he can also be associated both with fire and rain, which is kind of interesting. There's opposite factors there. His father, Svarog, was also a god of fire and potentially the sun, but he was more known as the creator god too, and he was often worshipped as a higher god, particularly among Eastern Slavs. But when Dažbog kind of came around, especially among the Southern Slavs, he was often known to replace Svarog's place in this style of worship. And in fact, even among Serbians, they actually believed themselves to be descended from Dažbog, so there was a very large cult to him that was worshipped very fervently. So as a solar deity, Dažbog also would fly through the sky along with the sun, as kind of like Helios does in Greek mythology. He had a chariot that was pulled by, in some stories, 3 different horses, 1 silver, 1 gold, and 1 diamond, and they would take him through the sky until he reached the end and passed through the gates into Navia, or Nav, which was the underworld, and then he would cycle through Navia and then would come back again in the morning. So every day he died, and every day again he was reborn. These cycles are very common in Slavic mythology. We've kind of talked with them, especially with Urilo and Marzana, with the seasons, but now again they're very common with the days as well. Wolves are very popular also in Slavic mythology, and Dažbog has a deeper connection with them than many gods do, though many gods are also connected with them. But Dažbog is particularly the white wolf is often a symbol for him. It's not exactly known why this is, but he is often known as a shapeshifter, and he would often be known to transform into a white wolf, particularly one with only 1 eye or 1 good eye and a limp. This was also, if he took on a human form, he often took on the form of an older man in which he had only 1 good eye and a limp. And this kind of comes often from Russian stories as well, and different legends attached to them. So Dažbog also was known to have 2 daughters, or potentially 3 daughters, depending on which story you have. Particularly, he was known to have the daughter of an evening daughter and a morning daughter. So the morning daughter was Zorza Perona, or a name I cannot pronounce in Russian that you could look up as well, that's in my article. And also Zorza Vietzorna, who is the goddess of the evening, and also has a Russian name that I cannot quite pronounce. But these goddesses would open the gates for him in the morning and when he was reborn, and then close the gates to Navia in the evening when he died. It wasn't quite known who the mother of these Zorza were. There's not many stories about that, so there's speculation, but nothing really concrete. In some stories as well, Dažbog was known to have a brother named Svarozic, which literally means little Svarog. So it was thought that because of his name that he was Svarog's son, but it's not really known, one, whether he actually was worshipped at all, and whether this god also was Svarog or a different form of Svarog or just his son. Not a ton to note about it, but he was also thought of as a god of fire, so you can see there's multiple gods of fire here, and each one had a slightly different role. And in my books, and particularly A Dagger in the Winds, Dažbog doesn't make a direct appearance yet, but he has a ever-present feeling across the stories, especially as a god of the sun. Václav, one of our protagonists, is a farmer, and so he very much understands the power of Dažbog, particularly as Marzana's cold starts to creep in throughout the story and the conflict between warmth and cold and spring and winter. I won't tell you too much more. You'll have to check out the story, but until then, I will look forward to seeing you guys next week on our next Slavic Saturday video.